So, Al, welcome to the Make a Big podcast.
Thank you, Hayden. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited about this one. You've had quite a crazy journey. Obviously, you've built this huge software empire right now. It didn't always start there, though, did it? So it'd be great if you could sort of bring us right back to the start, where you started, and how you ended up having, one of the biggest softwares in the Amazon space.
Sure. Like I've been sort of entrepreneurial all of my life. So I was like the kid at school that sold sweets out of his
Yeah.
bag. I did like magic shows and like I've had a lot of different businesses before even starting on online businesses. Like from school, I went into worked at Barclays Bank. Then I had a sort of sideline where I had a market stall selling like ethnic clothing, jewelry, and like smoking paraphernalia. Um, I From that business, I learned various lessons. I learned about VAT and what have you. But I've always been into technology, so I've always like, as a child, my dream was to be a games programmer. So I've been writing games and things, but I couldn't get a job in technology without a degree. So I then sort of left the bank as a mature student to get a degree in software engineering. After that, got a job in doing creating sort of financial systems and passport systems. And it was a well-paid job, but I still had this sort of entrepreneurial itch. So then I started a sort of online business on the side because I got to the point where I was being kind of overpaid. I couldn't leave the job without taking a massive pay cut. And the only way I could effectively leave it would be to create my own business and get income coming in that way. So I sort of basically threw a lot of shit out the wall. I was able to take a sabbatical and sort of concentrate on different online businesses to see what would work. I got into the sort of forum space and the blog space. So I was earning revenue. So I sort of built various blogs and sort of review sites. I had various forums, and eventually, well, I say eventually, it took a few months for them to actually replace my 9 to 5 income. So I built up a bit of a nest egg, and then sort of went all in. So going from that, most of the revenue there was from sort of advertising, affiliates, and sort of sponsorship deals. So that's when I first got into the Amazon affiliate space.
So you're doing blogs about Amazon?
Not about Amazon, about different products.
Okay.
So
physical products?
Yeah,
Oh, cool.
very much physical products. I think like information products are probably a lot more high commissions, but physical products was the space I was in, and so I learned sort of a lot by doing that, and say it let me leave the 9 to 5, and like the Amazon affiliate was just like one of quite a lot of different revenue streams I had coming in.
Awesome. What did you do after the affiliates? Did you have another business? I think you said you had a publishing business, maybe?
That was like the publishing business. I had
okay.
a few sort of main big sort of technology websites, and then a bunch of other smaller websites. Then I sort of hired a sort of team of content creators, and this is when it was all textual content rather than like now would be video content. So, and like content creators create content, and I would create sort of software on the side to help those. Every business I've had, I've created software to help with that business. So with like the affiliate one, we were doing like gadget reviews and technology reviews. I created like a gift wizard. So basically, that would be then looking at various products. All of them would have an affiliate scheme in some way. Amazon being one of them, where people could answer various questions, and then we'd present a list of potential gifts that they could then buy, and we'd obviously get commissions that way.
Awesome. So how fast did the sort of compounding catch up with you there? So you started it, you were doing some affiliates, all that kind of stuff. Did it take you a while to start earning money from that? Once, to get out your job?
It took about 6 months to replace a 6-figure income.
Wow. That's super fast. Were you expecting it to be that fast?
I didn't know, to be honest.
Yeah.
So it did take off. Like I put a lot of work in.
Yeah, that's fast.
But and this was this would have been, 15, 20 years ago.
Do you think you got a trend that was going upwards and leveraged the sort of?
Yeah, I think I got in relatively early.
Yeah.
Like I know, like really Amazon affiliate program. Amazon like one of if not the first affiliate program.
Yeah.
So I got in quite early with that.
Yeah.
I think with a lot of sort of like what I've seen over the years, you get different sort of things come along, like whether it's an affiliate, FBA,
Mm.
crypto,
TikTok
TikTok
shop. Yeah.
shop, and like you can get in early and make a lot of money, or you can get in later but learn from people that I've got in early and be in it more for the long term.
Mm.
So with this one, I got in fairly early. I made a decent amount of money, and like I'd have probably done better if I'd got in later in the long term rather. Like I made a lot of money in the short term,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
it wasn't sustainable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Oh, makes sense. So you were doing that, and there was something that put you off doing that long term, and then you just sort of started thinking about the software for the Amazon stuff. How did that transition work? Did you?
like I say, I've always created software with any business
Yeah. Yeah.
I've had. So with this one of the lessons I learned at that time, I was like more money focused. Now I'm much more product focused.
Mm.
And the problem when I was being on the money focused side, you do things for money, which isn't the right way of doing it, in my opinion. So like one of the things I did, we had a lot of traffic coming in from Google. One of the sort of things I created was an automatic sort of translation. So if I had a site, say, with 10,000 pages, I could then convert that automatically using Google Translate to like
Wow.
10 more languages. So you've then got 100,000 pages. So
Mm.
it wouldn't increase the revenue by sort of tenfold or 20-fold, but it would increase the revenue quite significantly and the traffic quite significantly.
Mm.
But the content was shit. But yeah, so doing it for the money was great. It's yeah, we increased the revenue very quickly. So it was just about overnight where a site went from 10,000 pages to over 100,000 pages.
Wow.
And like yeah, revenue increased, traffic obviously increased.
Yeah.
Complaints obviously increased from like some of the foreign language saying this content isn't very good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, it wasn't. But that was one of the things I'd learned from that is like yeah, that was it. It had a short term gain.
Mm.
But in the long term, yeah, I've just created a load of shit content.
So SellerAmp, how did you start the? How did you get the idea of that? Basically, you were in the space already, and then
Yeah, so I was doing sort of very well as an Amazon affiliate with
yeah.
different revenue streams. I got a big Google slap where so traffic just sort of drops off a cliff.
Like a change of algorithm, or
well, I think they caught up with some of the shit content I'd been putting out. So at the time, yeah, trying to recover, but then I was looking at what other sort of revenue streams are there.
Yeah.
So I was from an Amazon affiliate. It's like when I was an Amazon affiliate, I didn't know there were third party sellers on Amazon. So then learned about FBA. So that go into the sort of FBA space.
You started selling?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was selling for about 5 years. I started like most people do from kitchen table. I sold all my used books and used what were DVDs.
Yeah.
To proving the concept. And then I started doing RA and OA. I sort of invested some chunk of money in there to sort of prove can this work. And yeah, money started. You could actually start turning over sort of products. So I'd moved from the kitchen table to the living room.
Yeah.
And I basically just filled the house up with like Argos 3 for 2 sales when Tesco Direct existed, which was great.
Your wife loved that.
Yeah. One of my friends had a unit, so he sort of subletted me a bit of space in his unit so I could start getting pallet deliveries. So then I did autumn fair and got some contacts there. So I used to get end of line toys. And then progressed into getting my own sort of small warehouse, employing staff. They had white van driving around doing RA. And then the original SellerAmp was for doing inventory analysis and profit analysis of what I was selling.
So you made a software for your own business again?
The software was for my Amazon business. But then I employed somebody who would actually go out doing RA. And then she'd telephone up asking, how many of these can I buy? How many of those can I buy? And at that time, there wasn't a mobile app out there for doing retail arbitrage. So that's where the idea came from. Let's create the mobile app, which was because we had a profit analysis part in our inventory software, but it's just a small part of it. So then we expanded that to do full-on sort of scan the product, do the analysis. And so we started with the mobile app, then thought, well, we've done the mobile app, it's pretty easy to put this in a Chrome extension and put this into a web app. And it went from there. So it was from our own need that we created it.
Wow. So you're a successful seller, and then you create this software and you sort of made it available to the general public. Was that just in Facebook groups and stuff like that? You just sort of told people you have this little offering and a few people bought it? Or I'll let's see the inception of how it was built.
Like it started out where like I was selling for about 5 years. I think it was in the third year I had just about breakdown in Q4 because I was just going like all in.
Yeah.
And I was working I don't know how many hours a day. It was too much.
I'm laughing because I know what it's like, to have a crazy Amazon business selling multiple thousands.
And it was like, because I used to post where I hit the roll. Like this doesn't sound very much nowadays because people do way more than I ever did. But I remember I used to post where I've done my first like rolling 100K 30 days, and I normally hit it round about Black Friday or a little bit after.
Yeah.
But like so middle of October, so middle of December, you'd just be working solid, and then I would just stop working overnight, and like first time maybe not the first time I did this, it was just like try to get a breakdown just from like going non-stop to doing nothing.
Yeah.
So like next time, instead of just doing that, I'll create some software. So I remember like the next time it was actually I went to a pub after doing my last sort of shipment, and I designed what was some like a keeper analysis where we basically display keeper charts for all the marketplaces in Europe. I remember like I had the idea, went to a pub and had a few beers. I don't drink now, I did then, but I remember developing this in an afternoon. And I'm posting that on Facebook. A bunch of people enjoyed it. Then we started getting questions of like, oh, can you do this as a Chrome? I think originally I did it as a web app, and so can you do it as a Chrome extension? Yeah. Can you do it as a mobile app? Yeah, we probably can do that. And that's how we sort of started creating that part of the software. Because before we've got the inventory management software, and this was just a quick and easy thing to do. I've forgotten where your original question was now.
How the original inception was, like how you sort of started off. So you were a really successful Amazon seller, depending on what people judge it on, 100K a month sounds pretty good. You were really successful. That sort of transition, did you decide that you didn't want to do that long term then? Was there a stage that you got to saying this isn't for me, this type of business? And you actively wanted to get into the software?
Because the idea was always to create a software, because my passion's in technology and creating software.
Yeah.
But to create good software, you've got to understand the problem. And like the best way to understand the problem or what you're sort of trying to solve is by doing it. So by actually being an active Amazon seller, and like I've seen it. People be like, yeah, we'll sell on Amazon so we can release a course. And like that was never the case. When I sold on Amazon, I wanted to create a business that would actually be profitable and make money.
Yeah.
But it would also learn about it to create a software stuff in my business, and then really move into the software space.
Yeah.
So I actually emigrated to the US. We launched software in the UK.
Yeah.
I emigrated to the US just as COVID hit. We were one of the last flights out. So I'd actually closed my warehouse. I'd sold all of my stock, which a lot of it would be to sort of different sellers you'll probably have heard about. And then that stock probably tripled in value just about overnight as soon as COVID happened, which is one of those frustrations, but there we go. But that move then basically, because originally when I moved to the US, I was going to start exporting from the US to the UK. But due to sort of COVID, we really focus on the software. So I had like 3 months of like solid development where I would walk and code. And that's how the SellerAmp sort of really did progress at that stage. I was like, we'd already launched in the UK. We launched in the US about a year later. Yeah. And it sort of exploded from there.
Yeah. It sounds like pretty fast growth you had there. So as I said earlier, so you went from the Amazon selling to then obviously you decided you wanted to do the software a bit more seriously. Was it just sort of Facebook groups you were doing it in? And then did you do any ads or anything like that? Word of mouth growing it? Yeah. Just thinking, because that's what people struggle with. They have an idea, maybe they launch it and then there's no traction and they may give up. So I'm just figuring out how you did that.
It's primarily been word of mouth.
That's amazing.
So for the first year, like I'd already sort of been in Facebook groups, and I would have had a following from the Facebook groups, and I was involved with a few sort of private networks where we'd talk about things, etc. So once we looked, as I like with software, the most expensive part of it is the development initially.
Yeah, sure.
And as I did the development, that it was a cost of, it was a time cost rather than a financial cost. Then we launched, as soon as we launched, we were profitable from day one. But obviously we're not taking development cost into that.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. So you went over to America just with the belief that the software was gonna work, and then you were gonna do Amazon on the side, but you ended up just doing the software.
Like I was moving to America and the software were completely unrelated.
Yeah.
Okay. It was just like I'd always planned with the software to launch in the UK and Europe first.
Yeah.
And learn from that before launching the US, because the US is obviously a much bigger marketplace.
Yeah.
So we launched in the US about a year later. We tried sponsoring some conferences to get some traction. Didn't really work that well. So we got involved with different influencers in the US, and again, word of mouth just took off again.
Was there no part of you that didn't believe that it was going to sort of work out? Did you always have the self-belief that the software was going to work out? Because it sounds like you just went charging in with no worries. A lot of people worry that maybe something won't work, so they slowed down. It sounded like you went in there really fast and just figured it out.
Yeah, like with any business, there's always a risk, but you've got to commit yourself to it. And we had a growth plan, and we did exceed it. Like I've learned a lot from sort of different businesses where now when I do something, like I have the long-term goal and kind of work backwards of how to get to that goal. Like if you're selling on Amazon and you want to say make an extra 1,000 a month, it's like, okay, how much do I need to sell to make 1,000 a month? And it's a pretty simple equation. Like if you've got a 20% profit margin, you know how much you've got to sell. You know how much stock you need to buy, you know how much you need to invest to get that. And like with the software space, we had a plan of what we wanted to get to. And then like the original plan was to build a company that was worth 10 million. And then there's different ways of valuing a SaaS company. So we had to work out how many subscribers we'd need to get to that point. And just working backwards, and sort of from day one, I knew we could get to this. Didn't know exactly how long it would take, but then we kind of surpassed that a little bit.
Wow, that's amazing. What was it? A massive transition going from an Amazon seller that's got a warehouse and managing your own, probably a one-man band, maybe a VA or something like that. You're probably pretty much a one-man band, I assume. And then you went from now growing. I think you've got 30 staff now. That must have been quite a crazy learning curve. That I'd say a very serious business.
Yeah, like it's a great thing with business is like whatever business you do, you'll learn something that you can use in a different business later on. Like the fact that I'd hired staff in the Amazon businesses, I understood about boring stuff like pensions
VAT,
and holidays and HR and all of that rubbish. So that's something I could then, even though like a warehousing business is very different to a software business, it's still got things in common. And like like VAT, and I'm now understanding about sales tax and the American side of things. But like one of the mistakes I certainly made is I didn't hire soon enough. I did way too much myself. And then like it's only really the last 2 years that we've been using either agency staff or our own sort of permanent staff. And that's one thing I would always advise people: as soon as you can afford it, start hiring.
Why didn't you hire sooner? Was it the affordability, or was it just you thought you could do it yourself?
Good question. Yeah, it's a really good question. It's like like certainly with software, if you're hiring sort of developers, you've got the initial sort of like curve when you get people in of like the onboarding process.
Yeah.
And you also have a bit of like, do I really want to give my code to somebody else to do? And it's like you've got to get over that sort of hump as such.
Thinking you could do it better, or you wouldn't find anyone that could do it as good, or
not so much that I'm not that egotistical. There's better developers out there than I am, but you've got to sort of, it's going to take sort of 6 months to get somebody on board, and they can really understand and start. And then initially, you're spending more time explaining the problem. It's like when you go over the VAT threshold. You can't just go over the VAT threshold because you're not going to make any money. You've got to jump over, go over the VAT threshold by 50 grand before it's worth registering for VAT.
Yeah.
And like once you start hiring, if you hire one person, you're not going to be twice as. There's two of you now. You're not twice as productive. You might be 10% more. So, and I can think it's probably a little bit scared because then you've also got to, when you're hiring people, you've got other people that are reliant on you to put food on the table. And you need to do it. And I've spoken to a lot of people, like I advise other companies now, and other companies you'll know in the Amazon space. I've said, you've got to hire, you can't do it all yourself, you've got to hire. And yeah, it's difficult. And every sort of person that I know that's created a bit of software, taking it to market, successful, is like building the team is a difficult part. That's one of the difficulties. If you're like, I'm a technical founder, so I understand the technical side of it. Building a team to actually take over what you do, it's difficult.
Yeah, that's why I asked, because I've struggled with the fear of hiring people in the past, and I know a lot of founders do as well. And I think I think I know why. It's because it's so much easier for the next month, 2 months, or 3 months to just carry on doing it yourself.
Yeah.
But if you do, because you've got to then invest your time for 6 months, as you say, into training up your first team member. So, and then you've got the pressure of payroll, obviously, and then the pensions and all that sort of stuff you've got to put into. But I do notice, the entrepreneurs that take that big leap and have that pressure of payroll, they do end up tending to go a lot further, long term.
Yeah, if you're doing it all yourself, you're kind of not an entrepreneur. You've kind of created yourself a job. And like, once you stop doing it, your business is going to go down.
Yeah.
But once you've hired a team, that's when you're an entrepreneur, where you're actually, one of the sort of cliche ones, you're working on the business rather than in the business.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is really cliche.
Yeah. What do you think sets SellerAmp apart from your competitors?
Like the experience I've had as a seller for actually sort of creating it from a seller's perspective rather than say from a marketer's perspective or like copying other tools. Like we are constantly innovating. A number of things we've done which have been sort of the first to market with these different ideas. And like, I think we're still the only one which has got, like, say, mobile app, web app, and the Chrome extension. And like, we listen to our users for like adding new features, and we're always looking for ways we can actually improve it from a seller's perspective rather than just from a software's perspective.
When you're looking to sort of innovate and be the first innovators to invent stuff on your software, I guess you could call it, instead of innovating, how do you have them original ideas? How do you find original ideas that you say you don't just copy? Sometimes you've been the first people to do something. Yeah. So how do you get original ideas? Like
one of the things when we first launched, one of the things I just wanted was max cost. So yeah, because like when we launched, we really wanted to be fast for doing analysis. So we don't want you to have to enter a cost price and then it will tell you your profits and things like that. Like, yeah, we can do that, but what you're most interested in is what's the max cost that I can pay for something. When you're doing like arbitrage, you're looking at as many products as possible. So we want to get to the rejects. We want to reject the products as fast as we can, so you can get onto the next product. So adding the max cost in, because like, well, it's one of the things that would happen when I'd have somebody in a store scanning a product, you want to work out how much can we pay for this.
Yeah.
And like, if you've got the tool that can just show you this is the most you can pay to make our desired profit, our desired return on investment, and it was like, that's one of the things I was looking at. Is there any tool that does this? And there's nothing out there. There's like just adding that one. Like originally when it had max cost, it had its own panel because it was that important. But it's just like, it's just one number, so it doesn't need it. So even though it's a really important number, it doesn't need a full sort of panel to highlight that. And like just different ideas come out. Like I think a lot. I've got what's called like bloody racing mind. My mind goes all over the place. So and I walk a lot. So I walk, think, solve problems, and just ideas come at different times. And then what we'll often find, we'll brainstorm either internally or with different influencers, different sellers, and like different suggestions come in. And like, so really, it's just for other people. They might not be suitable, but they can then trigger off thinking on different lines of like
Different lines.
how
Yeah.
else, what other ideas does this bring?
Awesome. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I think original thinking's really missed. You know, people are all constantly about, consumed with their phones, consumed with all the software they're using, and then they struggle to have original ideas. You know, and I think the people that have original ideas and the confidence to see them ideas through are the ones that tend to win. You know, from what I see. So you've been in a business owner for 2 decades now, about 20 years.
Maybe a bit more than that, but yeah.
If you could go back to the start, someone that's listening to this wanted to start out, is there something that really stands out that you wish you did from the start?
Hire sooner.
Hire sooner, yeah.
Hire sooner is certainly one of them that I would always encourage people to do.
Yeah.
Like one thing I've always done is like I sort of put money aside, so if something does go wrong, you don't have to suddenly panic and start trying to get revenue another way or go back to the 9 to 5. So certainly have a sort of emergency fund as such. Like when I quit the 9 to 5, I had replaced my income, but I also had I think it was either a 6 or a 12-month emergency fund where if this business did all go wrong, I've got time to create another business and actually replace it. And I think the other thing would be build an asset, not just a cash flowing business. Like one thing I find with Amazon sort of sellers, it can just be cash flow. Like you stop selling, your money stops coming in. Yeah. So if you've got a cash flow business, great. But then you want to be investing some of that money, so you've got income elsewhere. And ideally, you want a cash flowing business, but you're also creating an asset and value at the same time.
Yeah. So if you're doing Amazon, maybe a brand that's got that exit value.
Yeah, it could be a brand, or you're creating a business. If you're doing like a full-on warehouse with staff where it isn't reliant on you. Yeah, I say, creating a brand, whether it's a private label or like the bundling like you used to do.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. What opportunities? There's a lot of opportunities now when you started that weren't around. You know, is there any opportunities that you see, your friends doing or people that you know, and you think, oh, if I was new, I'd be doing that. You know, if the software wasn't, a thing. Any opportunities that you think people should be going after now?
Yeah, I'd certainly be looking into AI.
AI.
Like still early doors. There's still different. There's a lot of things that haven't been done as yet. Like say, crypto's pretty old now, but it's still, in the grand scheme of things, it's still relatively new.
Yeah.
So there's still
new currency.
Yeah. I would say to learn technology and software. There's always things you can be doing.
Because AI can integrate with the software as well, can't it?
I don't think, I might regret saying this, I don't think I'll ever totally replace software, but it'll certainly assist.
Yeah. Because you said that you think it's important if you're creating a software to know the niche first and be in it like you were with the Amazon selling. So I'm just trying to think, is there like a blueprint that you think people should follow? Because when you say, for example, we could get into AI, for example, when I think of that, I think, but where? Because I need to know a niche that I should be in and then a sub niche I could, cater an audience around. Do you think people should just get into one niche, learn a niche, and then offer a service around it? I just wonder if you had some sort of blueprint you can think of.
I wouldn't say a blueprint. Yeah. Like one thing when I started out, I threw a lot of shit at the wall to see what would stick. But once something did stick, I focused on it. I didn't sort of think, okay, I'll create this tool, I'll create this tool, I'll create that tool.
There must have been loads of opportunities to create other ones, I'm sure, yeah.
But I really just focused in with SellerAmp in the analysis space. There's always something new and shiny that comes out. You can quite easily bounce from one thing to another. But I would throw shit, decide what you're going to focus on, and then really focus on it.
I think, I'll stay on that topic for a bit because I think it's so important. Do you think that's a common thing that most entrepreneurs do wrong, where they build momentum in something? I've definitely been guilty of this. Build momentum in a certain business or service or product business, whatever it is, and then see another opportunity that can make me easily a couple of extra grand a month, and then I'll get distracted by that, and then all of a sudden you've got all these different incomes going on, but you're not focused on one. Do you think that's a common issue?
It can be. It's a difficult one because you want to diversify your income streams. However, I'd focus you also want to diversify, but focus.
Yeah, because you're really in one mainly. I mean, you said you do the consulting, but the software is the real big thing for you, isn't it?
Yes, software is my main one, and then other investments. But I've certainly seen it in the Amazon space where it'll be different influencers. Oh, here's a course on this. Oh, here's a course on that now. Here's a course on this.
Yeah.
And you'll see people that go and do every single course.
Yeah.
And it's like they spend so long doing different courses, they don't actually spend time doing things. And it's all very good being very knowledgeable and learning how to do all of these things. But unless you put it into practice, you've just wasted your money.
Yeah. It's really hard to stay focused on one thing, I think, because it gets really boring and monotonous, doesn't it? When you're just, there must have been times or months or years where you maybe got a little bit, not bored, but it's hard sometimes to stick for something for, I don't know, 10, 15 years and just not get distracted by anything else. Do you ever struggle with that?
Yeah, it's like the way, yeah, it is.
Because you've got more opportunities the bigger you get, obviously, with the resources that you've got.
Yeah, like I think this is another one of employing staff where it's like when I sort of started off creating software, I was just developing, but then you've got with software, you've got the development, you've got the marketing. There's a lot of different areas of the business. So you're basically like any entrepreneur, when you first start out, you're wearing a lot of different hats. And what you need to do is hire people to take the hats off. Like you get the hats, you want to wear the hats that you enjoy wearing and stroke all that you're good at wearing. But you want to be employing people to take some of these hats off because you can't do everything. And like even now I've got a team, I still find I've got way too much stuff going on. And focus on one thing, but like my aim is to get the team that can sort of run the software company as such, and then I will diversify and focus on something else. But I wouldn't want to have my focus on two things. I'm not like Elon Musk, where you can have your different businesses like that, and no idea how he managed to do it, but having the sheer number of hours he puts in.
Yeah. I get. Some people can do it. I guess it comes down to personality as well, doesn't it? Yeah. And if you're okay with that multi sort of focus. Looking back on your whole career, or especially the big company you've got now, is there any mistakes that you made that real stand out for you that you think, oh, this could have been the end of us? Some real sort of scary moments you've had.
So like I said, the previous business was where I had my Google slap, and the frustrating one with that was it was probably 9 months before I was offered like a couple of million for the business.
Wow.
And I turned it down because I thought, it's got to keep growing. It'll all be good. And
that's crazy.
And then it went pop.
You got offered 2 million, then it went pop.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was a little bit stressful.
Yeah.
But I learned from it. It's like, so
I'd say that's quite a big thing. And the fact that you overcame that quite quickly says a lot about your character, which is amazing.
Well, the funny thing is, like when...
That would haunt me, to be honest, for quite a long while.
What actually haunted me more about that was I just outsourced a business. So I didn't have to put much time into it myself at all.
Yeah.
And that wasn't good for me.
Yeah.
Because having the money coming in, but just like not needing to do anything, and it became kind of easy.
Make you lazy a bit.
Yeah, it did. So that's probably a bad time in my life where I wasn't in a sort of good place personally. And I had a business that was making me a lot of money at the time without much effort. And I think if you make money without much effort, it's easy gone.
Not good for your character as well. Yeah.
So I'd rather sort of earn what I do rather than with that one I put a lot of work in initially, but by the end of it, not that much.
But a lot of people watching this, all they want is money right now. Oh, but I just want 20 grand a month. What do you think? What would you say to them?
Like, you can do it, but you'll appreciate it much more if you earn it.
If you earn it, yeah.
And I see a bit like with some of these sort of crypto people that make crazy amounts of money. Yeah. If you don't earn it, don't expect to keep it.
It's really true, isn't it? Because I really think people that don't have much, or they haven't created much yet, they don't understand what that actually means. And what it means to building your character with obviously the mistakes that you've made, the mistakes that all entrepreneurs make as they're sort of climbing their way up. That's what keeps the money and produces more money rather than just being given it, like a crypto win, for example. Yeah, crazy. I'm just thinking about that person that's really wanting, on the edge right now, really wanting to start, or they're in their job right now and they're just looking to start, but they're scared to take that leap. Was that ever you when you were at Barclays?
No.
No. Do you think that was just wired in you, or do you think you?
A little bit. Like when you're younger, it's easier because you haven't got sort of any sort of the big commitments and responsibilities. So I know a lot of people in the 20s which are doing awfully well on Amazon, like doing like 7 figures a year, quite easy, well, multiple 7 figures a year. And but you can take bigger risks because you haven't got the responsibilities and commitments. Like when I quit the 9 to 5, I had a daughter, I had responsibilities. So like I had to make sure whatever I did, I had a backup plan. So that's why I had sort of money in reserve. I actually I was living further down south. I moved up to Nottingham so I could actually downsize my house. So I sort of cut back on expenses. And like, yeah, you've got to make sacrifices.
Did you go quite a while living below your means in your journey?
I've lived below my means just about all my life.
Yeah.
Well, I'm saying I was stupid in my early 20s where I got massively into debt and what have you, which took a bit of paying back. But I save about 90% of what I earn.
It's interesting. I'm exactly the same. I'm nowhere near as successful as you in business, but I'm exactly the same. I reckon I save 85, 90%. And when I say save, I'm investing it as well into S&P stock, stuff like that. But yeah, saving it and living below my means. Whereas a lot of people have said to me, and a lot of what I see people do is that when they get that money, they would spend 70% of it at least on increasing their lifestyle. You know, new Mercedes, new cars and houses, stuff like that. But I just think that has a massive impact on how far people can go. You know, living below their means.
It's like if you're starting out as Amazon as a sideline, the longer you can keep reinvesting your profits, the faster you'll grow.
Yeah.
Like I think so with me now. So I've obviously got decent revenue coming in, but like I'm just about at the point where I could just live off investments rather than income, and that is because like if you're saving, I think if you save like 90% of what you earn, you could effectively replace your income in just over a year or some number like that, might be 18 months.
Yeah.
But you've got to enjoy life as well. It's one of them. It shouldn't just be about money. You've got to enjoy life. But if you're living paycheck to paycheck, you're always going to need a paycheck.
Yeah. I bet it's a nice sort of. I remember when I first made my bit of money, it was quite nice to get that sort of stress relief of not having to worry about money all the time, because it sort of made me become a bit more creative with my, so I didn't have to worry about the money as much. I still do because I always seem to worry about money, but I didn't have to worry as much. Did you feel the same? So when you hit a certain mark, you could then focus more on the sort of creativity rather than getting bogged down worrying about the next paycheck, if that makes sense.
It's been quite a long time for me. I mean, because when I quit working, I had the reserve as such.
Yeah,
I never needed to fall back on it. Even like when everything went pop, I'd got enough then from I had a few rental properties and some other income streams. I wanted to give more to create another revenue stream, but it wouldn't have killed me if I didn't. Well, it would have been a drastic change in lifestyle, but yeah. I think I've answered that.
Yeah.
But
what just fascinates me about you is that I don't think you realise how persistent you are, and I can't really describe what I'm saying here. I don't think you realise how good you are in business and your mindset and how strong you are, because you do stuff, but you talk about them and do them as if they're nothing, and it's really easy to grow. I'm sure you've had your tough times, but you seem to grow pretty seamlessly because you've sort of figured it out. And there's just so many people watching this that are struggling and think that it's a lot harder than maybe what it is. And I just like, how do you go about just like setting goals and then actually doing them? Because sometimes you wake up and you, especially as an entrepreneur, you don't know what you don't know how to sort of get all your thoughts together and figure out what the next right move is. Do you do a power list every day or something, or is there a set routine you've got?
I do. I am big on creating lists.
Yeah. Is it like a power list, a master list every day?
Yeah, it's either daily, weekly, and longer term. But I also, if I have a plan, I will work backwards. I want to see where I want to get to, and then work backwards of how we can actually get to that stage.
So like certain things a day you have to do to get towards the bigger step.
I normally look a lot further in advance than that. Yeah, I do my daily list.
Yeah.
But I've got like typically I've got like a 5-year plan, and then work back from that.
Yeah. But what are you doing it all for at this point? Do you just love the software that you've got that you're providing to people? Because sure, it's not for money anymore, is it?
Yeah, it's you all need to do something. You've got to.
I just wonder what's driving you, because you're,
It's a good question, because like I am like at the moment I'm looking at angel investing and advising other companies. 'Cause I've learned an awful lot doing what I've done, but so I want to use that knowledge. I'm not ready to sort of retire and do nothing. But equally, if I start another business, I'd want it to be bigger than the business I've got now, just kind of out of principle, even though I don't need to.
Yeah.
So, I enjoy helping people. I'm not doing any courses or anything like that. I enjoy helping people.
Yeah.
But I enjoy creating things, and whether it's creating a business, it's creating a bit of software. I've got a couple of books. I've got one book in sort of progress that I'm writing at the moment, and I've got another couple of book ideas.
What's the next big step for you in terms of SellerAmp?
Like we're working on we're working on a bunch of different features, and we're also working on some a new product as well at the moment. And I think our development roadmap is about 3 years.
Wow.
At the moment. But ideas come along all the time.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. Yeah, so my next point is sort of around, do you ever switch off? I just want to, navigating the personal sort of life, the personal world with your business world. I know for me, I struggle to switch off. I've been working on it a bit more recently, but I sometimes struggle to switch off. My mind's always going, all these ideas, and because I've got so many ideas, there's always something to work on, as you know. Do you ever struggle to switch off? Like, how do you navigate the personal life and the business life?
Yeah, I always struggle to switch off.
Yeah. Has it ever settled down? Have you ever got better at navigating that?
Like, I've got better at exercising. So I think for the last 6 months, I'm exercising a lot more. Like I walk, but when I walk, I don't really switch off because I'm thinking. I'll either be thinking or I'll be on calls. I normally I swim. I live in Texas, so for like 9 months of the year I can swim outdoors, which is great. So when the weather's right, I'll swim like twice a day. But yeah, I must realize one of the things I do struggle with is switching off.
Yeah, that's why I asked about the master list, because the only way that I found to start tackling it is to have my big goals and then have the master list, and then sort of have to say to myself, as soon as the master list is done, you can sort of, I don't fully switch off because I always struggle to, but I can take a step back from being so intense, and I'm at sort of the second layer then, so I can decide to do some other bits, or it's okay to go and enjoy life a bit.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I started navigating that, Yeah, but I think that's quite a serious thing for entrepreneurs, the obsessed ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree with you.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, cool. Thanks for coming on now. I think we've, pretty much covered everything. Yeah.
Okay.
Is there any sort of final words you'll say to an entrepreneur right now that just wants to get after it, whether it's a software they want to create, an Amazon business or product business? Are there any words of inspiration you'll give them?
I'd say you'll learn more by doing than you will by watching.
Do you think there's like a nice balance they need to have between learning and doing?
There's a balance, but you'll still learn more by doing.
Yeah, just pick something and go into it.
Yeah. Like what I've often done is I'll start doing something, and then I'll start learning about it. And it's like I've done. So I've quit smoking. Geez, I don't know, 25 years ago. But I just quit just like that. I'm one of these annoying people that doesn't get withdrawal symptoms. I quit, but then I researched after I quit about the benefits of it. And I did the same with drinking. I just stopped drinking. It was like 5 years ago. Then it was while researching afterwards about how to keep it that way. But it was the actual doing it. The doing part of it was the best part of it. But then researching afterwards, which is probably a bit contradictory.
Yeah, I've given up drinking for 2 years. Did you notice any massive differences on it? since giving up?
My sleep improved, and I was much more productive.
Yeah.
When I stopped, it was just an experiment to see if I could.
Mm.
And it was like after a couple of weeks, I'm like, I am so much more productive. It's just like,
yeah.
Uh,
Awesome, love it. Yeah, Al, thanks for coming on. That's been fantastic, and yeah, all the best with everything in the future.
Okay, thank you very much.
See you soon.
Okay, cheers, Hayden.
Awesome.
Okay,
That's all right. How was that?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
What
All
time
good.
is it?